back to another episode of the Open Source Cafe, and I'm really excited for this one. We have Žilvinas joining us from Cast AI. So we're going to talk about two key hot topics that most folks are talking about. One is AI, obviously, and the other one is cost savings. So, if you have a cloud complex bill and you don't know where your money is going, trying to have difficulties explaining to the Rounds team, this episode is for you. And we have Žilvinas from Cast AI. So moving forward, first of all, welcome to the YouTube channel. Thanks a lot for joining. And we've spoken about Kubernetes and microservices and all sorts of things in the past, and I've touched briefly upon like cost management as well. But before we move forward, can you maybe briefly introduce yourself and share about your expertise in the field of cost optimization and artificial intelligence?
Yeah, so hey, thanks for having me. I guess the quick introduction would be that I have been around the cloud native deployments and all this other stuff like for quite a few years already. Like the previous startups I worked in, we end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for what seemed to be quite a simple things to deploy and run, but like letting go of cloud costs and not keeping track of them is an easy way to kind of like ruin one's cloud bill in a sense. And of course, here at Cast AI, like lots of years here already, up to 4 soon, and saw lots of different scenarios from ad tech, social networks, and all the other industries, like where customers are spending huge amounts of money on monthly basis, and like how we're doing that, how we're preventing that, and all this other stuff. So learned quite a lot regarding that, and yeah, I guess that's a quick one about me.
Thanks for sharing and joining, Žilvinas. And I was at KubeCon. I saw so many companies, and projects and open source tools doing something or other with cost optimization. So why do you think right now it is such a critical concern, especially in the context of cloud computing?
I think like recently, due to the economical situation, people saw that like saving some money might mean it's life or death situation for some of the companies, and GPUs and all this other stuff is getting more expensive. Like compute left untamed, this might ruin your business like in a day or so, and like lots of people in that domain learning that you need to take control of that. You can like improve your company if you start saving money on cloud costs and like hire more people, enable different products and etc. Like because money is not as free as it used to be. There are COVID times where it was like easy to get investment, especially for startups. So things are changing quite fast now, and money is becoming, and saving it is becoming a major focus for everyone now.
Yeah, I agree with the whole economic situation. And if we talk about like the trends, that you're currently seeing in the industry, like maybe you can give an overview of what is the current state of cost optimization solutions and maybe some notable trends and developments from what you have seen, like from your customers, like what is something that the companies are struggling with, like why is it hard for them to have a good cost optimization approach, and yeah, what are folks doing about it?
I guess the easiest part to identify like would be like of these trends that companies are usually failing to actually even identify what is the wasteful part of their infrastructure in terms of like what's being deployed, what kind of applications are wasting the most money, what kind of teams are responsible for that, and all this kind of stuff. So the general strategy to employ, I guess, for every single company is to actually like start identifying things. We can use solutions like STI, but even before that, we can like start using cloud-based stuff, such as like just tagging every single thing you're creating in a cloud environment, being able to keep track of like how the costs are increasing, maybe even like creating some alerts based on that, and like looking at costs as if it was any other kind of major operational metric for your infrastructure. Because typically the major thing is considered downtime, but like you won't have any downtime if you run out of money and your company is down. Like it's
No, I couldn't agree more. And regarding the common strategy, so what you're saying is like you should have a good monitoring system set up, because if you don't know like what you don't know, then how are you going to reduce your cloud bill? So maybe if you can let folks know what are some of the common strategies or approaches that businesses can employ to achieve cost optimization.
Yeah, so I guess like even without using any fancy product, usually you could just like start tagging every single thing that's going into your infrastructure. So like we have seen multiple customers doing that on like in both just purely cloud-based environment and Kubernetes-based environment as well, where like you don't allow a certain application to be run in your cluster if it doesn't contain some particular label. So such as like identifying what team is running that, and like being able to identify like who owns what. So this is like part one of the strategy. And like once you do that, I guess then you go into the next step where you actually like start trying to calculate the money, or at least if you're not being able to calculate money on yourself, which is usually the hard part, you are trying to calculate what kind of waste you are creating. Like, is all of the stuff that is being requested by your applications, is it really necessary? Are you just like throwing more money at the problem and you like just need to optimize applications and these kinds of things, I guess.
And regarding like if you talk about some of the factors that affect the dimensions of cost optimization, so maybe you can share a bit more about how to utilize those, like resource allocations and performance and scalability that interplay when it comes to achieving your optimal costs.
Yeah, surely. So like in terms of resource allocation, I guess usually people are over allocating things. It's like what we usually call over provisioning, that like when you are just throwing more money at the problem, and at some point it might be required during like spike times, at some point it might not be required. So if you look at such workloads, usually you would find that like maybe there are like 1-2 points during a week or even a month where like these workloads spike up to that demand, but like actually like we are running at lower requirements, and all that other time of a difference usually means you're just wasting company's money. Then additionally to that, it goes to things such as like where you could actually improve both allocation and performance by just like picking better or like more right fit instance types and cloud environment for your workloads. So even like in our case, we saw that like for particular network heavy applications, just like picking network optimized VMs indicated that like our workloads are running faster. We are having like less time spent on the computations and all of our stuff, then better VM performs better. So like we can even decrease the requests of such workload, like request meaning like requirements of compute and all this other power on the instance type. And yeah, you can even achieve additional savings with that, I guess. And yeah, of course, doing that in real time is kind of like a heavy thing to do. So that's why usually you opt in for some automated solutions. Is it like in cluster deployed solution is a SaaS platform like STI, but like whatever you pick, you need something that can scale up fast, pick the right VMs needed for your workloads, scale down fast, so you don't have this like idle time where you have a bunch of expensive VMs, especially for example for AI workloads which are running GPU, running idle and like wasting your money on your cloud bill.
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, like I believe you can say automation is also crucial in modern cost optimization solutions. And you're in, like, you have AI in the company's name. So I'll talk more about Cast AI later. But can you maybe share like how automation enhances the cost optimization process, and what is the role of AI uh, in making this process more smarter and effective?
Yep. So at this point, I have kind of started believing that optimizing cluster cost without automation, if your company is like at least at some basic scale, it's getting like close to impossible. Especially like if you are familiar with spot VMs and all this other stuff, where like the market is changing fast, the spot price might be drifting, some of your workloads might receive spot interrupt, and you need like all of this automation to handle these VMs going away, so someone else creating new ones, or even doing it prematurely, meaning like you might have some AI models like STI does, where we are actually like trying to calculate what is the likelihood of the particular VM to get interrupted, and like trying to replace it early on, and like doing that work without automation and not being to learn from the particular mistakes that like our algorithm could have done and like improve on it, is like it's kind of a crucial role, I guess, to have both automation and like AI in place for this stuff to work properly.
And since we spoke about a lot of solutions in the market, I think right now would be a nice time for you to explain a bit more about how Cast AI stands out in the field of the whole cost optimization, and maybe if you can highlight any unique methods or technologies that you bring to the table.
Yeah, sure. I guess one of the major things is usually when you find a solution, we either have a good reporting solution or some sort of kind of good auto scaling solution, and we kind of aim to create this huge platform where we have both, meaning we are trying to provide you both with ways to identify where your cluster costs are coming from, and not just cluster but organization costs as well in terms of compute, memory, GPU, network, and all this other stuff. And so the first pillar of what we do is helping you identify where the costs are from, and the next step is actually being able to action on the information that we are identifying for you. So whenever we start doing the automation for you, you actually can see that in the same report that we are providing, that things are changing, the price is drifting down, or if the price is increasing, you can identify if it's increasing due to Cast AI doing something wrong, or it's increasing because application developers changed request for application, and it's actually more demanding now, meaning it's requiring more compute power for stuff to be done. In addition to that, in our whole platform, we have security reports and all this other stuff, meaning we are trying to kind of create this one place where you have this where you have Cast AI as a Kubernetes platform, and you don't need to care too much about the other stuff because everything you have in our own application, and we kind of trying to take care of it automatically for you. Does this answer your question?
Yeah, thanks a lot for sharing, and I'll leave all the links in the description below for folks can check it out, and I'll do some comparison video later on after I dive into it. But you in the start you mentioned you spoke to a lot of customers and businesses, so I'm sure cost optimization it comes with its own challenges. So from these people that you've spoken to and businesses, what are some of the common obstacles that they might encounter when they're striving to optimize their costs? Yeah.
I guess one of the most ones which we usually encounter is especially for bigger organizations. For smaller ones, if it's a small startup, few people, 10 people, 20, it's kind of fine. Usually the people who are seeing our recommendations on our automation, we can enable these things themselves. We can do whatever Cast AI suggests them to do, but we're usually bigger companies, you could call them corporate at some point, I guess, that where we have bigger structures in terms of organizational charts, and maybe we have DevOps team, we have a SRE team, and yeah, one person can't do a change easily at such company. For example, if you're an application developer, you're owning some sort of payments application, in order for you to kind of enable automation for that, or check the recommendations, what we actually suggest to do in terms of workload resizing and etc., you would need to get involving into different levels of this organizational infrastructure. So this is the most basic challenge, I guess, every bigger company and the people working there encounter. Another one is actually being able to identify these bottlenecks and proper granularity, meaning if you're an application developer, you might want to find out how your particular application is performing, but then either you need to have lots of Grafana dashboards set up with and understand how money is calculated for this application, how utilization works, and all this other stuff. And in our case, I guess we are trying to provide it out of a box, but sometimes folks actually struggle to configure it on their end as well, and yeah, the output might not be as good as we would usually want.
Yeah, no, I've heard this from other folks as well, and also the monitoring part that you mentioned previously. But there's one more thing which is around balancing cost savings and optimal performance. So how can you ensure that, I was at this meetup the other day, and this person asked me, we're running these workloads, and let's say I don't know how much, how big the limits I should set, or how large size of my instance should be. And I just told him during that time that look at your historical usage and try to work with that. But maybe you can share a bit more about how to balance cost savings and optimal performance.
Yeah, so this is like a kind of a question which is I'd say a very good question for someone who works at CastAI. In terms of that, it's kind of easy for me to answer, because like we could actually just like install metric server in Kubernetes environment, set up dashboards themselves, set up Grafana dashboards, and start ingesting the data. Meaning like we could be having Prometheus and ingest this metric server data in their Kubernetes environment, and start actually seeing like over the like time of month or time of weeks how much their application is actually requesting, how good it is doing, and etc. Meaning like we would set up what we already give out of the box, where you can just like install our agent and like get out of the door support for seeing just like what you asked for. But usually it's not enough, because it gives you the view of current state, and what you actually want is to identify if your application is like network intensive, if it's compute intensive, if it's memory intensive, and like start identifying what happens when you pick different VMs. So in our case, for example, if you know that your application that you're running is network intensive, you can like specify that you want network intensive VMs for this application to be used. If it's like storage intensive, you can like specify that, and like based on these things that we would kind of do in terms of automation for you, then you can look at even our own dashboards and see that, for example, the CPU and memory is kind of like either dropping or increasing based on like what VM was picked, because different VMs and their different characteristics usually like provide different output in terms of these performance metrics. So it's like not just like saying that start identifying that, but you actually like need to identify how different types of VMs interact with your how different type of VMs impact your application's performance.
Amazing, and thanks a lot for sharing, Žilvinas. And since we're talking about like AI tools, most people also are concerned with data security in AI operations. So maybe if you can share how Cast AI works with it, being an AI company, and yeah.
So are you just like, for example, referring to like CastAI having some certificates, or like us being able to provide you security reports? Because like there are two different angles to take here. If it's like just certificate parts for any data we have SOC 2 and other compliance certifications done. So like whatever is usually required by the laws, by the finance industry, we have these things covered. All these certificates like are kind of available to check like on our website and all this other stuff. If you are referring to like just security in a nutshell, I guess yeah, we have our own security reports. You can identify what kind of vulnerabilities your workloads are exposed to, and all this other stuff.
Nice. And speaking of the future, how do you foresee the like what is in the coming future, like in terms of cost optimization and the role of AI that it's going to play in shaping it? Any maybe emerging trends that folks should keep an eye out on?
Yeah, I guess like especially with AI-based workloads, like I guess you can see it on the news, you can see it everywhere else, but like GPUs and lack of them, I guess, in the cloud environment is becoming more of a deal. So being able to optimize and do it fast automatically, and being able to adjust on that domain is gonna become even a bigger issue for lots of the companies, I guess, especially with these huge language models. And if, for example, you want to run one yourself, you would usually need like a good VM for that, and these good VMs are like not as easy to get when they are expensive. So you need to be kind of robust in upscaling and downscaling such things, I guess, if that's what you're referring to.
Amazing. And thanks a lot for answering all my questions, Ilvinas. So one last question, and I'll leave all the links in the description below for folks to get started. Maybe if you can share some practical advice to businesses who are embarking on their journey of cost optimization, where can you point them? How can they start if they want to start like today?
Yeah, I guess like there are two ways to approach it. Usually business can like try finding open source solutions, going through them, and like yeah, trying to make use of them themselves, which is like one and kind of good approach, I guess. Another one is actually like just finding some reporting solutions, installing them, yeah, checking out what are recommendations, and like maybe turning on some automation. CastAI does that. There are some other companies which do that as well, but in general, I guess to start at any point, you should start by identifying things, as I mentioned previously, and this is the most crucial part. I guess even without like any solutions, you could start by identifying stuff on your side by just like setting Grafana metrics or whatever other of monitoring tool you use, but it would probably require a little bit more of extra effort than you would typically would like to spend on. So that's why people keep postponing such things usually.
Amazing. Well, thanks a lot for sharing, and it was great talking to you. I'll leave all the links in the description below for folks to check it out. And yeah, do check out Cast AI, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.